Hilchas Gzeilah V'Aveidah Perek Revi. Now, at the end of Perek Shlishi, we learned the last halacha. Hachetiv mashkin miyad haleva shlei b'shus bezin hareza gazlan. Now, it doesn't mean hareza gazlan he has to return the item, because sof kol sof, since he's a leiva, so einachinami he didn't have a right to take the mashkin. But lepel right now that he took the mashkin, so memela he's allowed to be gover from the mashkin. It's not that he has to return the mashkin. He has to deal with this chayfetz as if it's a mashkin, and therefore, the mashal, when it comes at night, he has to return the item. He has to return the item, and al derech zeh he becomes chayev ba'insin. But on the other end, he's not mechuyev to return the item right away. In other words, the fact that this person owes him money, and lepel he has now an item which this person owns, so he didn't have a right to take it. But lepel, now that it's b'shusei, so he deals with that as a mashkin. It's b'negeh also to the hemshech haperek and perek dalet. Perek revi. Knas konsu chacham legazlonim, sheyanigzal nishba al kol ma sheyitan v'neitel min hagazlan. So say normally when you want to, you're tining, when a person is tining to be meitzi moment from someone, so the basic rule is ameitzi michaver ol v'raya. If you're tining that someone owes you money, so you have to prove that he owes you the money and how much he owes you. Mashenkin over there was a special takana that once a person was established a gazlan, he's a gazlan, in other words, it was established, it was ascertained that he was a gazlan, and now, but it's not clear how much he was gezel, so there's a din that the nigzal could be a nishba v'neitel and take from the gazlan what he's claiming the gazlan stole. But that's only once it's established through Eidim that he's a gazlan. Nachmol, knas konsu chacham legazlanim, she'ah nigzal nishba al kol ma sheyitin v'neitel min hagazlan. So once we establish that he's a gazlan, he could be a nishba v'neitel. Aber v'hu she'yez a mugzik she'gazl b'shnei Eidim. There has to be two Eidim that establish that this person is a gazlan, and then there becomes a din that the nigzal is a nishba v'neitel. Ketzad. He says he's going into this person's house in order lemashkene b'fnei edim. His intent is lemashkene, which is a ma'aseh Gzeilah V'Aveidah we learned before. And v'leihoya klum tachas knofov, he had nothing tachas knofov, and lepel v'yotza v'kelim mutolim lo tachas knofov. So the edim saw him walk in without nothing tachas knofov, and they see him walking out with kelim tachas knofov. However, v'leyodu akelim mahin. The Edom saw him walking in without and walking out with, but they don't know what he walked out. What was the kalim that was tachas knofov? Now, Ubalabai is saying the Balabai is tainus kach v'kach is altoni. This is what he had tachas knofov, and memela he owes me this money back. Is ben she'amar hagazlan me'elam lo nechnasti v'lo natalti klum. So in this case, the gazlan is being makish the Edom. The gazlan is being makish the Edom. Or ben she'amar nechnasti lemashkin k'mishiro Edom. So the smart teaches he's not timing that there was nothing tachas knofay. There were tachas knofay, but it was something that I didn't take from him as a mashkin, but it was rather something that was a pikadon b'teich basic, something of mine that I found in his house, and therefore I took it out. So I never really took out anything of his in my possession. Or he says I took a keli, and this is the keli that I took out of this person's house. In other words, what the Edom are saying are true, that I walked in, Almanas Lamashkin, and this is what I took out. Ubalabai is saying, no, Shenotl Zevi Keliyachi, he took out this plus something else. So Lepel, the Edom don't know. The Edom know that he took something out. So therefore, he definitely was a Gazlan. The question is only, it has a din of a Gazlan, because when a person walks into someone's house and takes something out, Almanas Lamashkin, so that's called the din of a Gazlan. So here, the din is Ari Balabayis, Nishba, Menikitas Chayfetz, so once, since there's Edom, they're saying that he walked into the house with nothing tachas knofov, and he walked out of the house with kelim tachas knofov, and it was almanas lemashkin. So memela, so we say it wasn't almanas lemashkin lemashal be a chash. Maybe he bought it from the other person, which we learned before that there's a musig that maybe he bought it from him. But in the case where he walked in almanas lemashkin and he walked out, and so memela he's an established gazlan. Question is only while he's gezel, so then the din is that the nigzal could be a nishba v'neitel. Halacha gimel b'amed dvarim amurim, b'shetoan dvarim shu amud b'hem. That's only if the nigzal is timing things which we could assess that the nigzal is shaykh to have. Eshu amud shemafkidin etzlei esen dvarim shetoan. Or it's shaykhs that people would be mafkid by him, these types of items which he's claiming were taken out of his house. In v'toan b'dvarim she'efshei shinot lo tachas haknafayim. Obviously, it's talking about that he was toying things which is possible to be tachas haknafayim. We're talking about big pieces of furniture, so obviously they weren't tachas haknafayim. So b'kitzer, so knows Nachamal. If once a person is established as a gazlan, and the nigzal is timing that the gazlan took these and these things from his house, and we're talking about things that would make sense that the gazlan should have, the nigzal should have in his house. He's almost that such things would be in his house, either because they're his or because they were picodden by him, and it's possible that these types of items were tachas knofov. So there was a takonas chachamim that the nigzal is naman against the gazlan. Once we establish he's a gazlan, he's a nishba v'netel. Now that's only if he's an established gazlan. However, halacha daled ru'u edim shenichnas l'mashkenes chaveri aber v'lei ru'u be'eshiyotza. They didn't see him going out. Eshiyotza aber ve'ein niveh tachas knofov klum. They didn't see that tachas knofov was anything. And ubalabai is saying the Eimer kach v'kach notel is afilu Eimer. The Ram holds afilu Eimer me'elam le'nechasti. So this person is definitely being makish the Edom. He's definitely being makish. The Edom are tiny. He went in. The Edom don't really know that he was a gazlan because they didn't see him coming out. But he's tiny. He didn't even go in. And Lepel the Nigzal is tiny that this is what he stole. So even though he's being makish the Edom, he's tiny me'elam le'nechasti. Shari makish Edom. Is a reza potter. Why? Since he's a makish seidim, so he's a huchze kafren, he's a huchze gazlan. So lechura he shouldn't be naman to tiny. He didn't take anything out. So here the Ram is Shem Omer nechnastiv le'natalti is nishba shvuas heses shelinotul klum v'helch. He could have been nishba shvuas heses shelinotul klum and memele v'helch she'ev she yikonis ligzav v'ligazal. So therefore, since he could have tined that, so now when he's tining that nechnasti. That lei nechnasti is also naman. And the passages when you read the Rambam, it sounds like it's like a migu. You know, since he has a migu, he could have said that nechnasti v'lei notalti, and he would have been a nishba heses. So now that he's tiny lei notalti, lei nechnasti is also naman. But it's very schwer because the chamigu makam edom, the edom are saying nichnas, and he's tining lei nechnasti. So he's obviously a shakran. So how could we say that he's believed because he could have said nechnasti v'lei notalti. So the Shach learns, the Pshat is, that the Pshat does say, B'chlal, when a person says something about himself, so there's certain things that he doesn't, that even though he says it, and we know it's wrong, but we could say he's not a liar, because Lepeil, he forgot. It's not an important piece of information, and therefore he forgot. So when he says a taina, and through this taina, he's like saving himself, so if we know that he's lying, so he's considered a huchze kafren. Mashenkin, if he says something which he really doesn't need to say it in order not to have to pay, so that doesn't make him into a huchze kafren. So that's how the Shach learns Pshat in the Rambam. Knows he didn't really have to say lei nechnasti, because he could have just said nechnasti v'lei natalti. I went out and lei natalti. They never saw him going out. So in Mele he could have said that. So now that he's saying lei nechnasti, the words lei nechnasti are not really necessary for his taina. He could, because it is nechnasti and notalti, and I took something out. So they don't really know that he took something out. So all he has to do is taina, I didn't take anything out. He doesn't have to get involved in the nechnasti. The fact that he got involved in the nechnasti, psazayte gezach. And memela, that's a thing that's not really a din taina. A person doesn't remember. Since it's not a din taina, it doesn't have a din of a taina because it's not a necessary taina. So if it's not a necessary taina, he doesn't become a huchze kafren on the taina. When it could become a huchze kafren taina, knows you need a taina to save yourself, and we know that you lied. So then we say you're a huchze kafren. Mashenkin over here, the fact that you lei nechnasti is irrelevant because the ikar is the lei notalti. And memela, so the fact that he's tiny late nechnasti is lei rami inish. He doesn't remember. It's not negeh. You don't become a huchze kafren by tining a taina, which is not really negeh. I'll call upon him. That's Shitas Harambam. The Ramah brings out like that. The Ramah says that if Lamoshel is being makish the Edom, and the Edom are saying in nichnas, and he's tining lei nechnasti, so then taka the nigzal could be a nishba v'netel, because once he's in a huchze kafren, it says this lomdas that shemam and nechnasi l'netalti. Therefore, he would have been believed, and therefore the fact that he's being makish the Edom doesn't make him into a huchze kafren, and therefore the nigzal could not be a nishba v'netel. The Ramah doesn't agree with. He brings from Rishonim that they don't agree with this Ramah. Halacha. Now, till now we're talking about that there were two Edom. There were two Edom that saw him being nichnas. There's two Edom that saw him coming out, and there was kelim tachas knafa, regardless of what his tain is, he becomes a huchze gazlan. And once he becomes a huchze gazlan, so therefore he could be a nishba v'netel. That's only if the Edom saw him going in, the Edom saw him going out. The Edom saw him going in, and the Edom saw him going out. And we're talking about that he's being tamed dvarim mu'amid ba. Halacha hey, haya eidachad me'idish nichnas. There weren't two Edom that saw him nichnas. This whole story happened with eidachad. Haya eidachad me'idish nichnas. And v'natel k'nei kelim tachas knofov. Exactly the same story. And ve'eni yedeh mahi. And this eidachad doesn't know what was tachas knofov. V'hu eimer, and hitain is either legazalti klum. I didn't take anything. Which could mean that I didn't take anything because what I took was a pikadon. Eisha Omar b'chevin nitalti. What I took was for my chev. I took it for my chev. And Mamela, what I'm taking now, I'm not a gazlan. I was by my chev. Even though I had a din gazlan, this time I had a din gazlan, because b'chevin nitalti we also learned before in Perek Gimel that it's a din gazlan. But as we said before, b'chevin nitalti, maybe I could take it. I could keep it for my chev. Aber hoyel ve'eno eid yedeh ma hoya tachas knafov. The Eid doesn't really know that there was tachas knaf. We'll learn behemshech. The Eid tainas he knows that's a different thing. But at this point in time, the Eid doesn't really know mahaya tachas knafov. So memela, so he's not really. The Eid doesn't really know that ma tachas knafov is areza nishba b'nekitas chayfet sheligazel. So now he could taina b'nekitas chayfet sheligazel, which means that he didn't take anything which has nothing to do with him. She'ein muzi because lo neselu b'shnei. He's lepel. He's not a mughze gazlan only b'shnei. So even though lepel, he's being made that he took something out of the house, and the emes is that when you take something out of the house, you have it in gazlan. You have it in gazlan. But lepel, he took something out of the house, which was b'teres mashkin. He's taking something out of the house, b'teres mashkin. That's what he's timing. And there's no edim that are saying that he's a gazlan. So memela, the eidacha doesn't make him into a hukse gazlan, and therefore the nigzel can't be a nishba v'netel.